What's going on, guys? So I finally got the attachment that everyone told me I needed to get. Now, you guys probably have seen the other attachment for my bad boy 3026H tractor. Basically, it's kind of a brush attachment where it just attaches to the front of the bucket. But everyone said you're eventually going to want to get actual pallet forks. And by going this route, I actually have the ability to pick up real pallets. So whenever I'm doing projects that require me to load, or offload sod or things like that, I now have the ability to actually go into your traditional pallet and unload things. So it's going to make things a lot easier. But I have a problem with this setup, and I'm not sure if I just want to modify it or if I want to replace it. So, there's something interesting. Let me show you what's going on. So when I purchased this is a Titan attachment. So there's probably a brand label over here somewhere. I think I paid about $750 in that range for it. No discounts. Actually, there was a discount because I provided my email address, but aside from that, there were no other discounts or rebates. I didn't get this sponsored to me or sent to me for free. I was a little surprised with the condition that it arrived in because, packaging something like this isn't the easiest. This thing weighs about 250 pounds total. They ship each of the forks individually, and then they also ship this piece individually, or the back bracket that it all attaches to. Now, the packaging, again, was very inadequate for this type of weight, and I really don't think there could have been a better way to do it unless they put the whole thing on a pallet and they actually used a pallet to ship it. Simply because they just tried to wrap some of this stuff in cardboard, and obviously the FedEx people who were shipping it here were having problems getting it on and off the truck without damaging the packaging. So there are little dents, there are chipped paint or powder coat everywhere you look. Powder coat versus paint, this is one of the reasons why. Powder coat chips away, and once that happens, you essentially compromise the finish because rust and corrosion can get between the powder coat and the finish itself, or the metal itself, and start causing it to bubble off. Whereas paint, typically, you can just spray paint over it. But I'm going to spray paint over it anyways. I'm not too concerned about stuff like that, to be frank. I mean, stuff that you use in the way you would use pallets are typically going to get scratched up and banged up anyways. I mean, equipment like this that moves around pallets and such, it's going to get scraped up, and it really comes down to how well you take care of it after the fact. Once you start scraping it up, are you going to try to repaint it? Are you going to touch it up? What are you going to do? But this is the setup. It's extremely heavy. I would venture to say it probably weighs significantly more than the actual bucket on the tractor. So the thing I have to keep in mind is that the weight of whatever I now load on here, especially the further out it is, the more forward leverage it's going to apply to the tractor. So it's even more critical that I ballast the back of it, add extra weight there, because in essence I've lowered what I'm able to carry in the front because, again, the weight of the actual fork attachment itself, as well as having any of that weight out front, is going to seriously throw off the balance of the tractor. Now, the reason why I went with this specific one, availability. It was difficult to find the one I wanted at local dealerships, and what I mean by that is I wanted one specifically that had the ability for me to adjust the width of the forks. So on this one, I can simply pull up on these spring clips and I can slide the forks in or out to accommodate different things that I'm trying to do. So that's really nice. This one also had the 2-inch receiver on the front, which I really like. Now, what I don't like about the 2-inch receiver is that it protrudes out past the back of the fork right here by about 1/4 of an inch. So what does that mean? That means if I'm trying to connect to anything that's perfectly flat up here, the receiver is actually going to make contact before the back of the forks do right here. So it's just something to keep an eye on, especially if the pallet has something on it that could get scratched if it's not resting, flat against here. So again, that protrudes out a little bit more. The other thing I liked about this specific one is that I could see through it. There are some of these that are really tall and it is almost blocked off completely, so you can't see through it, which means you're going to have a harder time connecting to the pallet because unlike a forklift where you're kind of almost right on top of your forks, you sit pretty far back on a tractor, and trying to precisely get into your fork so you can lift it up can be challenging. But You know, overall, it's really nice. The construction's solid. It's a 4,000 pound rated setup, so it's significantly greater than what the tractor's capable of lifting. The tractor has like a 1,200, 1,300 pound lift capacity, but it's probably about 800 pounds now on the front, simply because of the weight of this setup, as well as the positioning of where you have to put stuff on it. The further stuff is out, the lower that rating's going to be. The closer to the actual front here, the higher the rating's going to be. So again, you probably have about 800 pounds worth of lift capacity right here. As you get closer out to the front, that leverage is going to change the balance of the tractor and also the lift capacity. Now let me tell you something that, I don't know if this was a mistake I made or a mistake Titan made, but this is advertised as skid steer quick connect compatible, which means if you have a skid steer, you typically have these handles up here that you can use to unlock and lock in new front attachments, such as the bucket, right? So you guys saw at the beginning where I pulled up and I was simply able to get out, flip up the handles, lock in or unlock the bucket. And then when I pulled up to this one, I simply dipped the front down, hooked underneath this portion right here, and then lifted the assembly up slightly. And typically all you would need to do is get out and lock these levers. Here's the problem. You got these two openings right here on the bottom of the actual fork attachment. Here is the pin that needs to drop into place, and it's right on the edge of this hole. So I can't actually drop the pins into place and lock this in. I don't know, again, if this is a mistake I made during the ordering process, but again, when I read the instructions on this, it said that it was quick connect compatible, and the Bad Boy tractor uses a skid steer quick connect type system. So this could either be a problem with Bad Boy and their system not being designed properly, or it could be a problem with the Titan attachment not being designed properly for the typical quick connect. I don't think I'm going to send the assembly back. What I'll probably do is just cut a notch in that, it looks to be probably 1/4 inch thick plate, just big enough so I can get these handles down. And I might reinforce the other side of it as well, because I got a buddy of mine who enjoys welding and he could probably do that no problem. But I can't technically use them because the forks aren't attached to the actual front of the tractor. It's just lifting up in the groove right here. So, you know, it's created an interesting problem for me. Nothing is ever as simple as it looks, I suppose. I was really excited just to get out here, hook up to it, and then start demonstrating the forks with a pallet, because I have a really cool pallet that was actually shipped with the sod that we recently installed over here. So let me show you what that pallet looks like. Okay, so here's my gradually growing stack of pallets, and I got 4 more of them over there. But yeah, this pallet right here, check that out. That has to be one of the nicest pallets I've ever seen. I'm going to reinforce it a little bit. I'll probably cover it with some clear coat. But with a pallet this nice, it's going to give me the ability to use it as kind of a loading platform as well. One thing to keep in mind is because the forks I got are 42-inch long forks, and this pallet is about 4 feet long, I'm going to have about 6 inches overhanging the end. And again, the receiver hitch sticking out slightly is going to make it so it doesn't sit perfectly flush against the actual back of the forks. But I can modify that. But I'm going to probably clear coat this thing, or at least use some wood treatment on it so I can make it a little bit more, I guess, weather resistant. But yeah, this is the actual pallet I'm going to use. I might even cut off part of the bottom of it. So whenever I'm unloading things from the back of the truck, whenever I'm trying to move something around, if you know, we have more sod, we have things that we have to move from one part of the property to the other, I can load on here what it's capable of handling without tipping the tractor forward and move it around the property. So that is really cool. And to kind of give you an idea of the capability of this right off the bat, you know, the front of our RV has the Reese Goose Box on it. That thing probably weighs about 250 pounds. And if I wanted to remove it or move something that large around, I should have no problem being able to do it with the forks on there without even having to add ballast to the back. With the forks on there, with a pallet like this, or even, you know, grabbing the box itself that the Goose Box comes in. So when I talk about, you know, this adding convenience, that's the type of convenience it'll probably add for me. Now we're going to jump to the other attachment that I bought in case you didn't see that, so you can see kind of what this is working in conjunction with, or at least, you know, it's kind of an in-between thing between the forks and a bucket. Okay, so here is the bucket, and again, the openings right here, that the quick attachments pins actually lock into are spaced appropriately. But on the forks, they have a spot here and a spot here, and they have a metal piece of plate right here in between, and that's where the pins need to drop into. So again, I don't know if that's a problem with the actual fork attachment or if it's a problem with how Bad Boy designed the actual quick connect on the front. You know, I'd probably say they're about the same weight. You know, just kind of kicking this around, it feels like they're probably about the same. I still think the fork setup probably weighs a bit more than this. This is also a Titan attachment I purchased. I actually got this one off of Amazon, but this is like a brush clearing type attachment, and this simply clamps to the front of my bucket. So if I have, you know, ranch fence I need to take down, if I need to move things around, like a lot of the fence posting that we've been using, I'll just lay it on this and then drive it out where we're going. The problem with something like this is that because of how it attaches to your bucket, it puts a lot of leverage and force on the actual body of your bucket. So you can end up bending the bucket, and because you're moving this so much further out off the front of your bucket, you really can't put things like logs or anything like that all the way against the back, because of course this side piece right here. So it all ends up sitting out here, and again, you kind of reduce your overall lifting capacity because you have all your weight at least, you know, 18 inches out in front of your hinge point, which is right here. So your lift point, you want everything as close to it as possible. That's how you get the most lifting strength. The more stuff that moves out this way, you lose lift capacity, and you also create an imbalance with your tractor, and it can possibly tip forward. So that's one of the reasons why going to dedicated forks makes a lot of sense. Plus, this doesn't actually have the ability to lift pallets because the spacing and the fact that it has this center spear right here would cause it to make contact with that center portion of the pallet, and then the outer two portions wouldn't line up properly. So you would either be able to possibly hook some pallets in a way that would create kind of an imbalance because the pallet would be off to one side, or you would simply just create too much leverage on the tractor itself by having the weight placed so far ahead of the bucket, because again, how this attaches, that you could cause the tractor to possibly tip forward or problems there, or you could bend the bucket on the tractor. And those are all little things you want to avoid. Anyways, guys, you know, one of the most disappointing things of getting something new that you really want to start demonstrating is not being able to do that because of either a design flaw from the product you have or the product that you purchased. Titan Attachments is known to make pretty good stuff. I think it's manufactured foreignly. I'm not exactly sure. I just know that when I called customer service, because I actually received this piece here and one of the forks, and then the other one arrived the next day. So at first, I only got one tracking number, and I didn't realize it was like a bulk tracking number where that one tracking number was the identification for multiple tracking numbers, and I thought they misplaced one of my forks. So I kind of freaked out a little bit there until I looked a little bit deeper into the tracking history of it. But yeah, it only took about, I'm going to say 2 weeks to get all of this in. And it just kind of showed up. I got the tracking number saying it was out for delivery, and then all of a sudden it was all placed in front of the property by the front gate, and yeah, very, very heavy, very heavy. These forks probably each weigh close to 80 pounds, 90 pounds, more than that probably. I'd venture to say close to 100 pounds. But yeah, they're well over an inch thick, and then they bend down here and they taper down to about, I'm going to say, honestly, probably about 3/8 inch thick at the very end. Very, very thick, very heavy duty. Anyways, guys, yeah, I can't wait to show this thing off, but first I'm gonna have to do some modifications, and this is a better angle so you can see what I'm dealing with from a pin perspective. Definitely not gonna fit, so I'll either call my buddy and he'll cut it with the torch, or we'll just try to notch it out with maybe a reciprocating saw or something. But yep, needs to be changed. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll be back to show you the modification and the capabilities of this thing as soon as we're able to. Guys, have a great day.